Hi, I'm Faggy from Creative Inking, and today's video is about alcohol inks and stencils. I have tons of stencils, homemade stencils, store-bought stencils from all different places, and I've always been into mixed media, and since I got into alcohol inks, I've always been trying to figure out how I combine the two. And this video is basically going to show you one specific technique using a whole bunch of different stencils, how you can make really beautiful art. It's a little bit impressionistic, but it's something that's really fun.
So what I decided to do was to try 4 different types of stencils so you can see the difference and you can have an idea how things work. Starting with this large one, and it has very thin pieces holding it together. So I wasn't really sure how this one was going to work. For some reason, I thought it wasn't going to work so well. You'll see at the end how it came out. So I decided to do red. It looks like a rose, so I picked a couple of reds. 2 of them looked, as you can see, I thought it was a different shade, but it looks the same. So I'm using, I think that's a salmon, but it's a little bit more orangey, and I wanted something a little bit more pinky. So I got my pink sherbet. I love the pink sherbet, and I am dripping that in here, and I'm filling up this whole flower with the pinks and the reds, just making sure that all the white has ink in it. You know, if you put your little tip of your bottle just a little bit in it, it does drip more than you would like it to, but that I didn't want to use a brush. So then I just took a green, and I'm just filling in, just very quickly putting the dots inside there so I could have a different color. I didn't have to do green, but I chose green. Now I'm laying this aside to dry. The truth is the ink itself dries very quickly. It's the stuff that's right under the stencil that doesn't. Then I decided I wanted to do a bunch of butterflies, but I really only wanted to do the butterflies. I didn't want to get those flowers. I took some tape, and I'm covering up the flowers with tape, so if any kind of ink gets in there, it won't get to it. And I started with a really pretty blue. I don't remember. I think that might be aquamarine. I'm not sure exactly which color. And then I put, well, that's a little bit of a dark pinata. That's the passion purple, which I didn't realize it was the dark one. So I just used a little white to lighten it up. And then I figured, okay, once I started with purple, I might as well use some other purples. And of course, I'm not doing what you do with butterflies. Make sure that each side has the exact color. I'm just trying to get a colorful, pretty butterfly. Interestingly enough, I thought the yellow was going to just mix with the blues quickly and make a green, but it seemed to stay by itself. So added a little bit orange also. And I'm just finishing up with these couple of colors and making sure it sticks together so the ink doesn't seep under, and then on to the next. So then I'm doing this the opposite way. I'm going to drip into the holes as opposed to leaving the holes white. And I decided, since I did the first one in orange, I'm going to use the same color scheme here just to see the difference. I used basically, it was an orange and I think a butterscotch, which you just throwing it around. I bet it would come out a little bit differently also if you use a brush, but I'm just dripping because that's this particular technique. I guess I can try another time. Now here I'm just using a regular pattern stencil, and genius that I am, I wanted to cut it, and as I'm cutting it I realized, oh, is that ridiculous? If I would have moved it to the side, I could have just cut once, not cut off 2 ends, and then I would have had a bigger piece. But I decided to stick with the blues, and I am just throwing a couple of blues in. The pinatas, if you see I'm using the pinata, the jacquard pinata, those are much thicker. They don't spread as much. Not that they don't spread as much, it's just thicker, and sometimes they just don't move as well as some of the Rangers. There are some gorgeous colors with it, but I like to use a combination. So here I'm just finishing up, making sure we got all the blues into this pattern, filling up the empty spaces, and there we go. And then I'm holding that down too, putting it aside. Now it is time to take them off, checking how dry it is. I see the ink is dry. There is a little bit ink underneath. I don't know if you notice, it just kind of looks puddly. So I just do a very quick drying with the heat gun and then I take it off. I like that. I like the way, I'm surprised about that. I thought that it was going to go on there and it really was going to be a much more of a mushy look. Now this one, I'm using the heat gun on it also, and this one I was a little bit surprised at because this one didn't come out as well as I thought it would. I'm not sure if you noticed. I think the purple might have done it. Sometimes it's the colors that you use, but I'm not really sure exactly why that one didn't come out. And here's the orange face, the one that I had done with the masking fluid, the first one, giving it a little hit of the heat gun. And then pulling it off. And how cool is that? I really like that. Look at the difference. They're both cool. Maybe I just like the stencil, but that is so interesting. And then the last one, again, another little heat with the heat gun. And then I'm just going to pick it off. And, interesting. I'm not sure what I expected. I think I expected some of the circles to be filled in more. So based on how that large flower came out with the thin separations in the on the stencil, I decided I was going to try another one with thin separation. This was actually a homemade stencil. I made it in a stencil making class at an art retreat. I looked up, I have a bunch of sheets with different color schemes, and I decided to use 2 greens and a blue and a gray. I love that color scheme sheet that I put together because that way I would never really know what colors to put together. So I decided to do this. I'm inking it up. I'm filling in the spots. If sometimes I see too much of one color in one place, then I just add some more color. That's the beauty of alcohol and all the inks. You drip on top of it and it just makes such beautiful colors out of it. Here we go, finishing up. And then I am going to dry it. Of course, it's better to dry it naturally, but if I'm doing a video and I want it to go quickly, I use my heat gun. And just a little bit because it dries pretty well on its own. And then I lift it up and there you go. So here are my 5 pieces that I did. This was the first, second, third, fourth, and then I added this one. So I'm going to figure out what I want to use. I have my Posca pens, I have all of these gel pens, and then I have my Signo, and I am going to see how I can enhance these. So here are the pieces that I used with the alcohol inks, the stencils, how I enhanced. Each of them was done in a different way, so just sit back and enjoy. this was the piece I did with this stencil, and to enhance it I used this liquid chrome marker, which makes it look like aluminum foil, but I really didn't like it as I was doing it, so I just cut it and I left this piece to it. And you could use this in collage or you can use it as a bookmark, but it looks really pretty just like this, and I just didn't like the way the whole thing was coming out. So here are the 5 different stencils, the pieces that I had results from the 5 different stencils that I used. You can use any stencils that you have at home. You're just going to have some trial and error to determine which ones work the best with this technique. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel and check my description. You can get a link to a free PDF to help you get started on your alcohol inks journey. Thanks so much.